So Joe Burrow went nuts against the Atlanta Falcons, 481 yards passing. He is now second in the NFL in passing yards, third in touchdown passes. By the end of the year, where will Joe Burrow rank among all quarterbacks? And then part two to this question is that Geno Smith has also been terrific. He's getting a lot of shout outs on this show today. Third best quarterback by PFF. Where will he rank? So you have the emerging superstar who went to the Super Bowl and hit a rough patch, and then the player who comes out of nowhere after being a backup in the most Rich Gannon-y thing I've ever seen in my life. Where will both of these guys finish in the NFL overall at quarterback?
Well, right now, Burrow is second in passing yards in the NFL behind Patrick Mahomes. I think that's where he's going to finish because I don't think Justin Herbert's going to keep pace behind him. Matt Ryan's already been benched, so he's not going to keep pace with him. I think Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes finish 1-2 in the NFL in passing this year because you look at the rest of Burrow's schedule with Cincinnati, and they've got some tough defenses along the way. The Bills, they've still got to play them. They got the Titans and the Chiefs have been making everybody look bad. I think there's a couple of tough pass defenses that they still have to come up against, but it just feels like over the past couple weeks, and we talked about this a couple weeks ago, that offensive line, bringing in as many new bodies as they had, it would take time to gel, and it's starting to gel. He's starting to get more comfortable in that offense. You see his connection with Jamar Chase is just unstoppable. Some of the catches he had this weekend were just unreal to witness. Just the sideline and the narrow windows that he had to catch the ball. Him and Joe Burrow are back connected again, and that feels like a very unstoppable duo to try and contain, and not a lot of defenses are going to be able to do that. I think Burrow's going to finish second in passing behind Patrick Mahomes because Patrick Mahomes is just going to keep his torrid pace up for the rest of the season. That offense is ridiculous. They just basically recycle and renew, and it just feels like it's the same. It's the same dangerous passing attack that the Chiefs had, despite them having to change some bodies there. As for Geno Smith, it felt like after week 1 or 2 that kind of thing, the performances you saw would start to drop off, but they haven't. 6 weeks in, they still haven't, or 7 weeks in, they still haven't. So it feels like that's a system that's kind of perfectly built for him to just kind of continue to game manage and continue to be this guy who's going to lead this team. He's not doing anything incredibly out or spectacular like Mahomes, Burrow, and Allen do all the time, but he's just consistent, it feels like, and that feels like something that can continue. I don't know that he's going to drop off anywhere towards the lower half of the league in quarterbacks. I think he'll be kind of 10, 12, maybe around that area where we always talk about Kirk Cousins being. I think that feels like somewhere where he's going to be this season.
Yeah, I think with Geno, there probably will be some regression at some point. But the other thing is, with the NFC being as weak as it is, doesn't have to happen. I mean, he could continue. And one of the things with Geno Smith, he always had the arm talent to be a quality starter, but he didn't get a second chance as so many high draft picks do. And I think maybe part of that was immaturity in New York, that there was the incident with IK and Impali where he got punched and he goes 3-10 in a season. And it just seemed to be falling apart. Maybe wasn't ready for that at that time in his life. And that's why we talk about the need for development and giving people time. And it's funny that EJ Manuel, who was the top draft pick quarterback in that very class, he made that argument a lot in post-career. Like, he's become a good broadcaster in college football, but he talked about how pretty much he got thrown in, wasn't quite ready, and then never saw the field pretty much ever again. And that's not to say EJ would have been as good as Geno right now, but I think that quarterbacks who have kind of been making that argument, I mean, maybe there's something to it, and maybe too many guys were sort of cast aside too early or not taking enough time developing like the old NFL used to do. But in the league today, there's really no time for it. It's sort of, we're without a quarterback. This guy's got to play. And, he's actually good. But I don't know that Geno Smith will continue to play at this level. Probably ends up being a mid-pack quarterback, which is a huge win for Seattle and a huge win for Geno. And he has played spectacularly well so far. I think with Joe Burrow, that after a tough couple of games to start the season, that there was maybe a natural maybe he wasn't quite as magical as it was for last season. And then he just reminded everyone, oh no, it actually was. Burrow is super special with his accuracy, his ball placement, his leadership, his creativity. I mean, he is among the elite of the elite. And I think at the end of the year, and I guess I was thinking of it more through the perspective of just where we will all think of him.
Yeah.
It's very possible that we will look at Joe Burrow as being in the same conversation as Mahomes and Allen, who are far above the rest of the league, maybe equal with Lamar Jackson, who's maybe the next man down of the elite, and only by a shade from behind Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, who are kind of tied at the top at the moment. I think Burrow and Lamar Jackson will be considered right there, kind of up against their heels. And it's even possible Burrow is considered slightly better than Lamar Jackson. I think he's that good, and his supporting cast is that good. And now that, as you mentioned, they've gelled together a bit as an offense, they're about to take off. I think they're the only team in the entire AFC that can play with Buffalo and that can play with Kansas City. That might be a hot take based on their records, but I think that Cincinnati will keep getting stronger. Burrow will keep getting better as the season goes along. It's a high bar for me to set, but also I think the sample size from last year and then what we've seen so far in these last couple of weeks of him getting it together, I think Burrow is going to be right there in that conversation for the elite of the elite quarterbacks.
Yeah, I totally agree. I felt like that if he continued on that run that he would get there, and that first week kind of made a lot of people nervous, throwing 4 interceptions against the Pittsburgh defense that has now looked average without TJ Watt, and you've seen kind of how that defense has kind of fallen back to the face of the earth. But yeah, Joe Burrow, if he continues on this run, he definitely deserves to be up there in that conversation with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and even Lamar Jackson, like you said. Those guys are just a tier above everyone else at this point, and good luck deciding the AFC playoffs for the next 10 years with those 4 quarterbacks going at it. That is something you love to see, that just 4 quarterbacks who are the elite of the elite, all in the same conference. The AFC playoffs are going to be must watch for the next 10 years, and I am excited to watch that.
Unless Lamar, of course, leaves Baltimore and signs with, no, he probably won't. I can't see it. I can't see it.
If he wants an easier conference to win, go to the NFC, pick an NFC team, because that conference, the NFC conference, is just bad at this point. And doesn't
Put
look
Lamar
like it's gonna
Jackson,
get any better.
Put him on any team in the NFC South, and they're winning 10, 12 games and running away with that division. It is a complete disaster